They said it was just a movie, but behind the camera, something much deeper was happening, a story of pride, power, and control. A film that was supposed to bring people together instead tore lives apart as the cameras stopped rolling. The legal fight began, and the truth became harder to find. Was this a case of harassment or a clash of egos? Tonight, we uncover what really happened behind the scenes of It Ends With Us and why Hollywood still cannot stop talking about it. The story of this movie began long before any lawsuit or controversy came into the picture. The project, titled It Ends With Us, was adapted from the best-selling novel by Colleen Hoover. The book was a huge success with readers across the world because it spoke about difficult emotions and complex relationships. When the film adaptation was announced, people were excited to see how such a sensitive story would be brought to life on screen. Justin Baldoni, who had gained respect for his thoughtful storytelling and compassionate approach, decided to take on the challenge. He was not just directing the movie, but also producing it through his company, Wayfarer Studios. The team at Wayfarer had built a strong reputation for creating projects with heart and meaning. They focused on human connection, kindness, and authenticity. So when they decided to adapt Colleen, Hoover's book, fans believed it was in safe hands. When the casting process began, one of the biggest questions was who would play the lead role of Lily Bloom. This character required emotional depth, strength, and vulnerability. Eventually, the name of Blake Lively was announced as the star. The news immediately created a wave of excitement. Blake was already known for her charm, beauty, and success in Hollywood. She had starred in popular films and was admired by many for her talent and fashion sense. But behind the scenes, things were not as smooth as they appeared. From the very start, there were whispers that the collaboration between Blake and Justin might not be easy. Both were strong personalities, and both had clear ideas about how the story should be told. For Justin, the story was about hope, resilience, and healing. For Blake, it was about artistic freedom and her own creative interpretation of Lily's emotions. These differences would slowly begin to shape the atmosphere on set. Filming began with great enthusiasm. The production team had carefully designed sets that reflected the small-town atmosphere of the book. The crew was full of skilled professionals, many of whom had worked with Justin before and trusted his calm leadership. However, as days went by, small tensions began to surface. People who were there described how Blake often arrived with her own opinions about costumes, lighting, and dialogue. She had strong preferences and wanted things done her way. While many actors collaborate closely with directors, Blake's involvement went far beyond normal input. She questioned camera angles, she asked to change lines, and sometimes she even stopped filming to adjust how a scene looked. Justin tried to manage these situations politely. He was known for his gentle and respectful nature. Instead of arguing, he often tried to compromise and find a middle ground. But that approach also created frustration among other crew members who felt production was moving too slowly. Scenes that could have taken a few hours stretched into entire days. Budgets started to tighten, schedules became stressful, and the working environment turned tense. One crew member later described the experience as walking on eggshells. Everyone wanted to keep things peaceful, yet everyone knew that disagreements were unavoidable. At first, it was about creative direction, but soon it began to affect relationships on set. There was also growing confusion about the editing process. Justin, as a director, had a clear vision of how the story should flow. He worked with his editors to craft a balanced emotional tone. But according to later reports, Blake was not satisfied with the early cuts of the film. She believed that her performance was not being shown in the best light, and that certain scenes needed to be changed. This was the beginning of what would later be called the battle for control. At the time, Sony Pictures was the main studio behind the movie. They had invested heavily in the project and wanted it completed smoothly. But when two powerful figures on the same set start disagreeing, it becomes difficult for studios to stay neutral. Sony executives were reportedly aware of the ongoing tension. Some tried to mediate, but as the disagreements grew larger, the studio had to make difficult choices. Outside the studio, very few people knew about these problems. To the public, it looked like a dream collaboration. Blake and Justin even appeared together during early promotions, smiling for photos and speaking warmly about the film. But those who were working behind the cameras could sense that something serious was brewing. As the production continued, new people joined and others quietly left. Some members of the Wayfarer team who had been loyal to Justin felt pushed aside. They said later that Blake tried to replace them with her own choices of stylists, editors, and assistants. This shift in control caused more strain. What was once a peaceful environment started to feel divided. When the movie wrapped filming, everyone hoped that the post-production stage would bring calm. But instead it became the center of even more drama. Blake reportedly wanted her own version of the film to be edited. She reached out to people who had worked with her and her close friend Taylor Swift on music videos. These editors had experience with stylish and emotional visuals, but not necessarily with full-length feature films. Justin, on the other hand, believed the original version was faithful to the story and respected Colleen Hoover's message. He felt that too many changes could ruin the integrity of the film. But at this point, his control was limited. Blake was a big name in Hollywood, and Sony did not want to upset her. Eventually, two versions of the movie existed. Justin's version, which stayed true to the original vision, and Blake's version, which emphasized her performance and creative choices. The tension reached Sony executives, who faced the difficult task of choosing between the two. They tested both versions with small audiences. Reports later claimed that Blake's version did not test well. Some people said it felt confusing and lacked emotional depth. However, the conflict was no longer just about art. It was about pride, influence, and reputation. Each side believed they were right, and each side had supporters who felt loyal to them. At the same time, rumors began to leak online. Anonymous posts started to appear on Reddit, describing what happened behind the scenes. Some of these posts portrayed Blake as controlling and difficult. Others defended her, saying she had every right to protect her artistic vision. Nobody knew who was telling the truth, but curiosity among fans grew. Then came another shock. Some of these posts suggested that Blake had accused Justin of making her uncomfortable on set. They said he had made a comment about her appearance that she took as inappropriate. This single rumor would later evolve into a major part of the lawsuit, but in the early days, no one imagined it could reach that level. Most people assumed it was simply part of Hollywood gossip, where misunderstandings often happen under pressure. Yet behind the scenes, both Justin and his team began keeping detailed records. They knew that in an industry where reputations can be destroyed overnight, it was important to document everything. They saved messages, call sheets, video footage, and production notes. Every disagreement, every delay, and every comment was recorded. According to insiders, this decision would later become crucial when the legal battle began. By the end of filming the dream project that started with excitement had turned into a stressful experience for almost everyone involved. The cast and crew were exhausted. Some were sad because they truly loved the story of It Ends With Us and wanted it to succeed. Others were simply relieved to go home and put the experience behind them. No one could have guessed that months later the same project would explode into one of the most talked about lawsuits in Hollywood. But for those who were there from the beginning, the signs were already visible. What started as creative passion had slowly turned into personal conflict, and that conflict was about to move from the film set into the courtroom. To understand how this entire situation reached such a complicated stage, we have to look closely at the man behind the camera, Justin Baldoni. Many people first knew him as an actor from the hit television show Jane the Virgin, where he played the charming and thoughtful Raphael Solano. But long before and long after that role, Justin had been quietly building a deeper identity as a filmmaker, motivational speaker, and a man on a mission to change how the world views masculinity, kindness, and empathy. Justin was not the usual Hollywood personality. He often spoke about vulnerability, emotional strength, and the importance of living with purpose. He shared stories about his family, about his father, and about what it meant to be a good man in today's world. His speeches and interviews inspired many, especially younger viewers, who found his words refreshing in an industry often filled with ego and competition. Through his company Wayfarer Studios, he created projects that focus on compassion and real human experiences. One of his earliest successes was a film 5 Feet Apart, which told the story of two young people living with cystic fibrosis. The movie was tender, heartfelt, and deeply moving. It performed well at the box office and earned praise for its emotional honesty. That film established Justin as a director capable of balancing romance with realism. After that success, Justin wanted to create more meaningful work. He began developing documentaries that explored humanity and spirituality. He also launched Man Enough, a platform that encouraged men to talk openly about their emotions without fear of judgment. The show included heartfelt conversations with guests from different backgrounds. It became one of the most respected conversations around gender and vulnerability on the internet. Because of all this, Justin had earned a strong reputation in Hollywood circles as someone genuine and thoughtful. He was respected by his peers and admired by fans who saw him as the opposite of the typical power-hungry director. That reputation made the later accusations against him especially shocking. When It Ends With Us entered his life, Justin saw it as a perfect fit for his values. The novel itself dealt with issues of strength, self-worth, and the cycle of emotional abuse. It was a story about survival and love that demanded a delicate touch. Justin believed he could direct it in a way that honored both the author and the audience. At first, his connection with Colleen Hoover, the writer of the novel, was strong. They met several times to discuss how the film could stay true to her message. Colleen appreciated Justin's sensitivity and trusted him with the adaptation. But once the studio brought Blake lively into the picture, things started to change quickly. Justin knew Blake was a talented performer with a strong presence both on screen and off. He had no reason to doubt her professionalism. However, he also understood that Blake's influence in Hollywood was powerful. She had years of experience working with top directors and designers, and she had a personal network that extended deep into the entertainment industry. People close to Justin said that during the early meetings he admired Blake's confidence and her sharp understanding of character. He even said publicly that he was honored to have her play Lily Bloom. But as filming began, it became clear that their creative methods were very different. Justin liked calm reflection and slow preparation. He believed in listening to everyone on set and giving them a safe space to express ideas. He ran his sets almost like communities where kindness and respect came before ego. Blake, on the other hand, worked fast. She trusted her instincts more than group discussion. She was used to taking control and pushing things forward when she felt strongly about something. This difference in rhythm created a subtle clash. It was not anger or hostility at first, but simply two worlds that did not mix easily. Crew members noticed that Justin often paused before giving directions, as if choosing his words carefully. He did not like confrontation and tried to keep the mood peaceful even when he was unhappy. Those who knew him personally said that Justin's quietness sometimes worked against him. In Hollywood, silence can be misunderstood as weakness. Some thought he was too gentle for a business that rewards bold voices, but others admired his calm nature, saying it made him a better leader in tense situations. When reports later claimed that Justin had made inappropriate remarks about Blake, his supporters found it difficult to believe. They pointed to years of his work on men's emotional health and respect for women. They asked how someone who built his entire public life on empathy could suddenly behave in such a contradictory way. Justin himself did not speak publicly about the accusation for a long time. His team at Wayfair decided to stay silent until legal proceedings began. They believed that responding to rumors would only make things worse. Instead, they focused on gathering evidence showing that Justin's behavior on set was always professional. Behind the scenes, his reputation helped him find allies. Many people from his past projects came forward offering to testify about his character. Crew members from earlier films described him as respectful, humble, and even self-critical. He often thanked his team before taking credit himself. These testimonies would later become important as the case grew larger. Another part of Justin's image that drew attention was his family life. He was a devoted husband and father of 2 children. He often shared glimpses of his family moments online. These posts showed a man grounded in love and faith. His wife Emily was a strong supporter who appeared with him at many public events. Together they represented a modern image of partnership based on trust and shared purpose. When the controversy broke, people looked at these images and wondered how they fit with the accusations being made. For many, it was impossible to imagine Justin behaving in a way that could be considered disrespectful. But others argued that appearances can be deceiving in Hollywood. They said even the most polished public image can hide private flaws. As the media began to dig deeper, Justin faced a difficult choice. He could stay quiet and let the situation unfold, or he could speak out and risk making it worse. He chose the first path because he believed that truth would eventually surface through evidence rather than noise. This decision, however, left a vacuum that others quickly filled. Without his voice, the online conversation was shaped by speculation. Reddit posts painted him as controlling or manipulative. Some people even accused him of using his reputation as a mask to hide a darker side. These posts spread fast because they fit the dramatic narrative that online audiences often love. But people who worked closely with him described a different man. One assistant who had been with Wayfair for 5 years said that Justin never raised his voice once. She said he treated everyone equally, from senior producers to interns. Another colleague said that Justin would often stop shooting if he felt someone on the crew was uncomfortable or tired. He believed filmmaking was a human process, not a mechanical one. All of these details made the later allegations feel confusing. The contrast between his long-standing values and the accusations against him became one of the most debated topics in entertainment circles. Meanwhile, Justin continued to focus on his company. Wayfair Studios did not stop producing content. They quietly worked on other projects even while the controversy was brewing. Some insiders said Justin used work as a form of coping, staying busy, to avoid the emotional stress that came with public judgment. He also stayed close to his spiritual mentors and family during this time. Those who met him privately said he was heartbroken but calm. He often repeated that truth would prevail and that every storm eventually clears. In the months that followed, Justin's silence became a strategy. Lawyers advised him not to engage with media outlets or social platforms. They prepared for the possibility that this misunderstanding could grow into a full legal case. So they began organizing documentation, witness statements, and production logs from It Ends With Us. What no one knew was that this preparation would become central to one of the most unexpected Hollywood courtroom stories in years. Justin's reputation, built over decades, would soon be placed under the harshest test of his career. And as the legal process began, it became clear that this was no longer just about a film or two creative people who disagreed. It was about power, influence, and how quickly a reputation can be reshaped in the digital age. Before the storm that surrounded It Ends With Us, Blake Lively was already one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood. Her journey from a television star to a respected actress and style icon was built on years of hard work and determination. She first gained fame through the hit television series Gossip Girl, where she played the role of Serena van der Woodsen. The show made her a household name and turned her into a global fashion symbol. After Gossip Girl ended, Blake moved toward film work that allowed her to prove herself beyond television. She appeared in movies like The Town Savages and A Simple Favor, each one showing a different side of her talent. Critics often praised her screen presence and natural charisma. She had a way of capturing attention without trying too hard. For many years, she represented a balance between glamour and groundedness. Blake was also admired for her personal life. She married actor Ryan Reynolds, and the two became one of Hollywood's favorite couples. Their relationship was often shown as an example of love mixed with humor and partnership. They supported each other's careers and built a family that fans adored. Whenever Blake appeared in public, she carried an image of elegant strength and confidence. However, behind that polished image, Blake was known to be deeply involved in every part of her work. She was not the kind of actor who just followed direction. She liked to participate in costume design, camera decisions, and even the marketing of her projects. Many directors appreciated her involvement because it showed care and commitment. But some found it challenging because she often pushed beyond normal creative boundaries. When Blake joined It Ends With Us, she viewed it as more than just another role. She saw it as an opportunity to make a powerful statement about women finding strength after pain. She wanted Lily Bloom to be portrayed not just as a victim of emotional struggle, but as a survivor full of courage and dignity. She studied the book carefully and even met with women who had faced similar experiences. From the start, Blake made it clear that she wanted authenticity. She requested that the sets feel real and not overly glamorous. She believed the audience should connect with Lily as an ordinary woman rather than a Hollywood version of one. Her dedication impressed some members of the crew, but soon her passion began to clash with Justin Baldoni's gentler approach. Justin wanted subtle storytelling with quiet emotional beats. Blake preferred expressive scenes with strong visuals. She wanted Lily's strength to shine through every frame. These two styles could have worked together, but the communication between them started to break down. Small creative disagreements became long discussions. Every decision took more time than expected. Crew members said that Blake often reviewed footage immediately after filming. She would look at how scenes appeared on the monitor and sometimes request changes. That practice is not common for actors during shooting because it can interfere with the director's process. Yet Blake was confident in her instincts. She felt that her experience gave her the right to make suggestions. On some days, this approach helped the team capture better shots. On other days, it caused frustration. Technicians had to reset equipment again and again. Assistant directors struggled to keep the schedule on track. Some people admired her commitment, while others quietly wished she would step back a little. Blake's perfectionism extended to costume and lighting. She was famous for her impeccable style and sense of visual detail. On this set, she worked closely with a costume designer, sometimes bringing her own clothing ideas. She even helped adjust color tones for certain scenes. Those details might sound small, but they added hours of extra work. There were moments when Justin tried to remind everyone about the bigger picture. He believed too much focus on looks could distract from the emotional message of the film. Blake disagreed. She believed that visual expression was part of storytelling. She argued that Lily's clothing and posture told as much about her journey as the dialogue itself. This kind of disagreement might sound artistic, but on a busy film set, it can create emotional exhaustion. Every extra conversation meant more pressure on time and budget. Still, both of them managed to maintain polite professionalism in public. They smiled during interviews and spoke positively about the project. But inside the team, everyone could sense the tension growing stronger. People who worked close to Blake during this time described her as deeply focused but occasionally impatient. She wanted results quickly. She believed that she had a clear sense of how the movie should look and sound. Some interpreted her confidence as control, others as passion. In the film industry, that fine line can often blur. Another challenge came from her fame. When a star of Blake's level enters a project, everything around her changes. Public relations teams become more active. Studios start paying extra attention. Media outlets begin following every move. This can put pressure on everyone involved, especially the director. Justin now had to balance his creative role with the weight of public expectations attached to Blake's name. As the project continued, people noticed that Blake started taking a more central role in decision-making. Some insiders said that Sony executives began consulting her directly about production choices. This shift in authority slowly weakened Justin's control. It was not that he lost his title as director, but that his influence became quieter. Around this time, Blake's friendship with music artist Taylor Swift also became a talking point. Taylor's music had been a part of Blake's life for years. They supported each other publicly and shared a bond that fans loved. When the movie needed music for emotional scenes, Blake suggested using one of Taylor's unreleased tracks. She felt it would add authenticity and heart. However, there were licensing issues and financial complications. Sony was cautious about spending large sums for song rights. Justin also felt that using a famous song might overshadow the scene itself. He preferred to use an original score created for the film. That disagreement turned into another round of tension. Even though both sides were professional, the atmosphere on set became heavy. Crew members started splitting into groups, those who leaned toward Justin's calm leadership and those who followed Blake's energy. What had begun as a united creative mission slowly turned into two separate camps. Blake herself was not unaware of this divide. She often tried to keep morale high by chatting with the crew and showing appreciation. She would bring small gifts or food to lighten the mood. But beneath the surface, many people felt the imbalance of power was too large to ignore. As filming neared completion, Blake began to think about the film's final form. She believed she should have more say in the editing process because she understood Lily's emotions better than anyone else. Justin disagreed, but he tried to remain diplomatic. He allowed her to view rough cuts, thinking it might help avoid future problems. Instead, it opened new disagreements about pacing and tone. Blake wanted certain scenes trimmed and others expanded. She thought the story needed more focus on Lily's internal world. Justin wanted to keep the balance between all characters. Their opposing visions turned what should have been a creative discussion into a silent battle. By this point, even Colleen Hoover, who had been involved in the project from the start, began to feel caught in the middle. She respected both of them and tried not to take sides. But the situation had grown beyond creative opinion. It now touched on contracts, budgets, and executive decisions. After filming ended, Blake continued communicating directly with Sony about promotional strategy. She had ideas for how trailers should look and how marketing should present Lily's story. Justin wanted to be part of those discussions too, but sometimes found himself excluded. To outsiders, this might not have seemed unusual, but to those inside the team, it showed how power had shifted. The image of Blake that emerged during this period was complex. She was talented, smart, and fiercely protective of her work. But she was also a perfectionist whose intensity could unsettle a peaceful environment. She was admired and feared at the same time. When the movie finally reached its post-production stage, Blake's influence was stronger than ever. Some insiders said she began overseeing edits with people she trusted from outside the Wayfarer team. That action later became one of the central issues in the legal conflict. Justin's team argued that she had interfered beyond her contract terms, while Blake's team claimed she was simply ensuring artistic integrity. Whatever the truth, the experience left deep marks on both sides. People who had entered the project full of hope now felt drained and divided. What should have been a film about healing had instead created real wounds behind the scenes. But for Blake Lively, this was not just about a movie. It was about her name, her reputation, and her creative identity. She felt misunderstood and unfairly criticized. And when rumors began to surface online about her alleged conflict with Justin, she believed she had to defend herself. That decision to fight back would soon lead her down a path she could not have imagined when she first accepted the role of Lily Bloom. The battle that began on a movie set would soon move into the courts and into the public eye, where every word and every memory would be questioned. When the filming of it ended, thus wrapped up, most people expected the conversation to move toward premiere dates, trailers, and interviews. But what happened next took the project in a direction nobody predicted. It started quietly in online spaces where fans of Colleen Hoover gathered to discuss the adaptation. Among them, one corner of Reddit became the unlikely birthplace of a major controversy. In August, a long post appeared on the Colleen Hoover subreddit. It was written by someone using a throwaway account. The person claimed to have inside knowledge of what had really happened on set. At first, it looked like another one of those anonymous gossip posts that appear before every big movie release. But the details were so specific that people began to pay attention. The post described tension between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni during production. It painted a picture of a set filled with disagreement, confusion, and frustration. According to the post, Blake had felt uncomfortable working with Justin. One example mentioned was that he had commented on how she looked sexy in an outfit she wore on set. The writer said they did not know the exact context, but that it had caused tension between the two. The post went further, saying that Justin had been unhappy with the first version of the movie created by the original editor. He then brought in his own team to make changes. Blake reportedly did not like this move. She wanted to create her own version of the film as well. When the studio rejected her request, she allegedly threatened to go to the New York Times with a story claiming Justin had behaved inappropriately toward her. This dramatic claim caught the attention of many readers. If true, it would mean that the entire post-production process had been overshadowed by accusations and manipulation. The Post said that Sony panicked after Blake's alleged threat and allowed her to continue editing. It even claimed that Justin was temporarily banned from the Sony lot while Blake worked on her version of the film. Then came another shocking part. The writer said that Blake had hired the same editors who worked on Taylor Swift's music videos. She had them recut the film while she was in Italy working on another project. After this new version was screened for friends and family, including well-known actors like Ben Affleck and Bradley Cooper, the reactions were reportedly poor. People who saw it supposedly said that the film made no sense and felt incomplete. The Post added that Blake then tried to fix the movie again by hiring another experienced editor. During this process, she used one of Taylor Swift's songs for a key emotional moment. Sony loved the inclusion and wanted to keep the song. But when Taylor found out that the film's original composer was someone she had past issues with, she allegedly said that she did not want to be associated with him. The studio supposedly removed the composer to keep the song. The story ended by saying that Blake's version of the film was still confusing and difficult to follow even after the edits. People who read this post could not tell whether it was real or fabricated. Yet the writing style, the timeline, and the insider knowledge made it feel authentic. Soon the post spread beyond Reddit. Screenshots appeared on Twitter and Instagram. Fans began debating who the anonymous writer could be. Some speculated it might be someone close to production, like a crew member. Others said it was a coordinated smear campaign meant to harm Blake's image. Then conservative commentator Candace Owens mentioned the Reddit post in one of her own discussions. She did not claim to verify it, but she brought it to a wider audience by questioning why Hollywood was silent about such serious allegations. Her involvement gave the story a political edge and attracted new groups of viewers who were not even interested in the movie itself. This combination of gossip, celebrity, and controversy made the story go viral. For weeks, fans debated whether Blake had overstepped her role or whether Justin had been unfair. Social media became a battleground. Hashtags supporting each side appeared. Some said Justin was a victim of manipulation. Others accused him of hiding behind his reputation as a kind director. In the middle of all this, neither Blake nor Justin said much publicly. Their silence made people even more curious. Rumors thrive on mystery, and in this case, the silence felt like confirmation to many. Every small clue was analyzed by online detectives. Old interviews were rewatched. Behind-the-scenes photos were re-examined for any hint of tension. The more people searched, the more they found fragments that seemed to fit. A crew member's vague social media post about chaos on set. A deleted tweet mentioning creative clashes. Even harmless moments began to look suspicious. Fans started building timelines connecting unrelated pieces. Around this time, another user posted on a separate Reddit thread, claiming to have spoken directly to someone close to Justin. This second post echoed parts of the original story, but added one key difference. It said that there was no sexual harassment at all, and that the sexy comment had been taken out of context. According to this source, Blake had shown up wearing an outfit from home after rejecting what the costume team picked. Justin had commented that the outfit looked frumpy, and when Blake became upset, he tried to smooth things over by saying, "No, you look sexy," meaning it as reassurance rather than flirtation. This version of events presented the situation as a misunderstanding rather than misconduct. The Post also claimed that Blake often delayed production by rewriting lines or refusing to follow the shooting script. It said she would sometimes stop scenes mid-take to adjust camera angles or even move Justin's position while giving direction. These claims match what others had whispered privately. Still, without official confirmation, the truth remained blurry. Some journalists tried to investigate, but legal teams for both parties were cautious. They reminded everyone that defamation laws were strict and that repeating unverified claims could have serious consequences. Even so, the conversation online did not stop. Then another person on the same subreddit shared what they said came from someone who worked closely with the editing department. They said Blake's version of the film was indeed chaotic. Scenes were rearranged and emotional continuity was lost. They described the movie as visually beautiful, but lacking rhythm. Sony executives reportedly had to mix parts of both Blake's and Justin's versions to make a final cut suitable for release. This mix of information, some real, some rumored, created a sense of mystery around the film. When it was finally released, audiences went to see it not just for the story, but to search for signs of who had truly shaped it. Critics wrote that the movie felt uneven, as if two visions were fighting inside one film. Those who followed the behind-the-scenes drama felt they knew why. The Reddit leaks changed everything. What began as a creative disagreement had now turned into a public spectacle. People who had never read It Ends With Us now knew about the film because of the scandal. Blake's name started trending again, but not for her acting. Justin's reputation as a calm and respectful filmmaker was questioned by some, but defended by others who had worked with him in the past. Inside the industry, the leaks caused unease. Studios depend on trust and confidentiality. When private details from a set become public, it damages professional relationships. Executives at Sony reportedly began internal discussions about how to prevent future leaks of this scale. For the fans, though, the damage was already done. They no longer saw It Ends With Us as just a romantic drama. It became a symbol of conflict between fame and filmmaking.